Hi everybody, I'm Scott, and today I wanted to talk to you about a few books that contain alien archaeology. And this book right here is one that I talked about not too long ago. I had a buddy read with the Booklectic, Brandy over at the Booklectic. This is The Engines of God by Jack McDevitt, and it's what triggered my memories on other books with alien archaeology, because this is a book that has a lot of that in it. It's the first book of a series. The main character is Priscilla Hutchins, who is a pilot, and she is flying herself and a team of people through various archaeological sites on other planets. So in the very opening scene of this book, they are looking at a statue of an alien on some planet, and just looking at it in awe, like, where is this, and where did the people come or go, the folks that made it, and then there's a mystery that they chase from site to site, archaeological site to archaeological site, trying to solve what they think is being told to them. And here's the sequel, and I haven't read this yet. I just got this the other day. This is the sequel. There's about 7 books in this series, I think. But this is called Deepsix, and it says, in the year 2204, tragedy and terror forced a scientific team to prematurely evacuate Maliva 3. 19 years later, a rogue moon hurtling through space is about to obliterate the last opportunity to study this rare, life-supporting planet. With less than 3 weeks left before the disaster, superluminal pilot Priscilla Hutchins, the only even remotely qualified professional within light years of the ill-fated planet, must lead a small scientific team to the surface to glean whatever they can about its life forms and lost civilizations before time runs out. But catastrophe awaits when they are stranded on this strange and complex world of puzzles and impossibilities. And now Hutch and her people must somehow survive on a hostile world going rapidly mad as the clock ticks toward apocalypse for a doomed enigma now called Deepsix. So, really looking forward to this. So this is the second book in the Priscilla Hutchins series by Jack McDevitt. But that got me thinking about some other things. And the first one that comes to mind, I have this beautiful book right here, At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. This is only volume 1. It's a very thin volume, but it is, let me just take this cover off so I don't destroy it, but it's just beautiful. So let's see if we can see that. Let me go over this way. So right there. At the Mountains of Madness was written in 1936, and it was, in fact, if I can find the cover, I'll put it right here, of the Astounding magazine in which it first appeared. But it is probably, well, in my opinion, it is the best thing that I've come across that H.P. Lovecraft has written. And it is a story about, there's this man, right here, the very first line is, "I am forced into speech because men of science have refused to follow my advice without knowing why. It is altogether against my will that I tell my reasons for opposing this contemplated invasion of the Antarctic, with its vast fossil hunt and its wholesale boring and melting of the ancient ice cap, and I am the more reluctant because my warning may be in vain." So this character, William Dyer, is telling the story of the last time he was in Antarctica and what they found, and he's warning people to stay away. And so what they find, or what they had there, is an alien civilization or a archaeological site, right? But if you know anything about Lovecraft, there we go, I'm trying to get the glare off it. If you know anything about Lovecraft, it's this is science fiction horror. So there is evil lurking in them there buildings. But let me just read just a touch of it. I think that both of us simultaneously cried out in mixed awe, wonder, terror, and disbelief in our own senses as we finally cleared the past and saw what lay beyond. Of course, we must have had some natural theory in the back of our heads to steady our faculties for the moment. Perhaps we thought of such things as the grotesquely weathered stones of the Garden of the Gods in Colorado, or the fantastically symmetrical wind-carved rocks of the Arizona desert. Perhaps we even half thought the sight a mirage like that we had seen the morning before on first approaching those mountains of madness. We must have had some such normal notions to fall back upon as our eyes swept that limitless, tempest-scarred plateau and grasped the almost endless labyrinth of colossal, regular, and geometrically eurythmic stone masses which reared their crumbled and pitted crests above a glacial sheet not more than 40 or 50 feet deep at its thickest, and in the places obviously thinner. So yeah, those sentences are a mouthful, but that's Lovecraft. So they start to explore this archaeological site. They're unsure, are the people that built this still around? We have no idea. And it's a novella-length work, and that's what it's about. It's about them, being in a scientific expedition in Antarctica, finding a huge archaeological site put there by aliens, like 500,000 years ago. So that's one. That was the first one that came to my mind. And then the next one that came to mind is this one. And this one is Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. And this is not about them finding an archaeological site on a planet, but what it's about is, and this was, I should say this was written in like 1973. Yeah, 1973 by Arthur C. Clarke. So he's the same one who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey and Childhood's End. But here, the Earth detects a ship incoming. They think it's an asteroid at first, but it's too regular. It's a long cylinder, and as soon as they decide that it is in fact artificial, not natural, they send an expedition to intercept it and to look into it. And it seems dead. There's no lights on or anything like that. Nothing seems to be happening on it. It just seems like this thing's tumbling through space. So I'll just read this little section of it. This is from chapter 8. Never before had Norton felt so strongly his kinship with that long-dead Egyptologist. Not since Howard Carter had first peered into the tomb of Tutankhamun could any man have known a moment such as this. Yet the comparison was almost ridiculously ludicrous. So he's about to open or walk into this alien ship. Tutankhamun had been buried only yesterday, not even 4,000 years ago. Rama might be older than mankind. Rama is the name they've given the ship. Rama might be older than mankind. That little tomb in the Valley of Kings could have been lost in the corridors through which they had already passed. But the space that lay beyond this final seal was at least 1,000,000 times greater. And as for the treasure it might hold, that was beyond imagination. No one had spoken over the radio circuits for at least 5 minutes. The well-trained team had not even reported verbally when all the checks were complete. Mercer had simply given him the OK sign and waved him toward the open tunnel. It was as if everyone realized that this was a moment for history, not to be spoiled by unnecessary small talk. That suited Norton, for at the moment he too had nothing to say. He flicked on the beam of his flashlight, triggered his jets, and drifted slowly down the short corridor, trailing the safety line behind him. Only seconds later, he was inside. That just evokes so much awe for me. I just love these kinds of stories. But this is a very, very good book. Highly recommended. And then another one is one that I'm reading right now that I'm just about finished with, and it's a reread. Now this is interesting. What we've got here is a a story in which there's well, I'll read this, but there's an asteroid that they found. I think the best thing for me to do is read it. This is Frederik Pohl from 1977. And it won the Hugo and a Nebula Award. I mean, it was a very highly regarded book. So it says, when men began to poke around the surface of Venus, they found the He-Chi diggings. They didn't find any He-Chi. Whoever the He-Chis were, whenever they had been on Venus, they were gone. Not even a body was left in a burial pit to exhume and cut apart. All there was the tunnels, the caverns, the few piddling little artifacts, the technological wonders that human beings puzzled over and tried to reconstruct. Then somebody found a He-Chi map of the solar system. Jupiter was there with its moons, and Mars and the outer planets and the Earth-Moon pair, and Venus, which was marked in black on the shining blue surface of the He-Chi metal map, and Mercury, and one other thing. The only other thing marked in black besides Venus, an orbital body that came inside the perihelion of Mercury and outside the orbit of Venus, tipped 90 degrees out of plane of the ecliptic so that it never came very close to either. A body which had never been identified by terrestrial astronomers. Conjecture, an asteroid, or a comet. The difference was only semantic, which the He-Chis had cared about specially for some reason. So they get there, and what they find is a hollowed out asteroid that's got a bunch of ships in it. And the ships, people can get in those ships and travel in those ships. But they don't understand how it flies. They don't understand how to change they don't know where it's going. They can't understand how to change where it's going. So what happens is it becomes a little bit of not a little bit, it becomes a lottery. People actually go there to take a ship to an unknown thing, knowing that they could die when they get there because of, it could fly them right into a sun or, whatever. It could fly and not return soon enough for them to have enough food. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong, but there's a chance that they could come back having visited an alien world and perhaps brought back things that were extremely valuable. So in other words, they could hit the lottery. And a lot of people would volunteer to do this. And that was just really cool. But there's another example of like an alien archaeology. And I'd love to hear any stories that that you might know of, any of you that involves alien archaeology, because I do love those stories a ton. So there it is. There's a few books about alien archaeology. Thanks for listening.